Thank you so much, Manager Hintz and Chair King and the rest of the Town Council. My name is Mark Omelindi. I'm the Chair of the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission, and I'm the Marine Resources Representative. And I'll be presenting the 2024 update from the Commission. I brought this in a little bit earlier for the Manager Devereaux to do a little fact checking, and he said, "You realize you only have 5 minutes, right?" So I have jettisoned some slides, and I think we can hit that 5-minute mark. So I initially started with this picture, which I thought, in a way, was a good representative of all the different things that the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission has to deal with. We've got, we deal with the access, which is a big issue with harvesters, commercial activity, which you can see here, but there are also recreational harvesters, and that resource is dependent on the water quality in the bay, and all of these things are central to what the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission does. So just a super quick intro to where we came from. The Harbor Management Plan, which I think was done in 13 and 14, initially called for a Harbor Committee, which is what eventually became the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission. And in March of 2014, it was approved. And I think the original meeting was actually in May, which means our next meeting this May will be our 10-year anniversary. So we're going to have a little cake and invite some of the old members back. And the Harbor Management Plan itself is now 10, 11 years old. And so I thought when preparing this, and also as the Commission looks at sort of reviewing our focus and our objectives, to go back to the original plan. And so if you look at it, it seems like it could have been written today, because a lot of the concerns at the time are still concerns now, and a lot of the priorities mentioned are still what I hear from folks as priorities. And so I think that we've done a good job, meaning the town has done a good job at addressing some of these issues, but it just goes to show how long it will take to it's a constant process dealing with access challenges, mixed use priorities, and things like that. And so the whole idea of the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission was to create sort of a committee of committees. And so the management plan had these 4 goals in which they created this committee to take care of. And so we have a commercial representative, a marine resource committee representative, which is who I am, and then members from the Conservation Commission and the Recreation Commission, and 3 citizen representatives. And I put designations with a question mark there, because one of the things that I would like to try to look at going forward is I guess the perspective and the needs of coastal owners versus landlocked residents can be very different. And so I don't think we have any formal way to say that it would be great to have both points of view from that 3 citizen representatives, but I think it might be a good idea to make sure we have at least one of both groups in that 3 counted. And then we have the Harbor Master and the Coastal Resources Manager, and 2 council members who are non-voting members, but that's Councilors Updegraff and Walker, who do a great job coming and providing additional support during those meetings. Okay, so our meetings are the 4th Wednesday of every month. We don't meet every month, but we meet a lot of months. One thing that we've done is taking some of these months off and do field trips, and we can talk more about that later, but I think that's brought a lot of perspective to the Commission. Another thing I'll point out, we used to have minutes. We no longer have support for minutes, and I think that was something that was helpful, and hopefully that's something maybe we can get back if possible. And then we have we have legislative updates, so we talk about what's happening, not just locally, but also in the state, legislation that's pending that might affect our resource and our ability to manage them. And then the Harbor Master report, which talks about mooring, recreational use, navigation, things like that. Coastal Resource Manager report, which in addition to just our own marine resource, he keeps us apprised of all the different grants that are going on, all the different conservation projects. So he really provides a lot of information to the committee, but then that's now online and accessible to anybody that wants to. So I think that's a really good permanent record for people to go back and watch the video. Even if they're just watching that report, they can stay pretty well informed of what's going on. And so I just highlighted some of the things that have been on our agenda items. And so for this slide, really what I think is important is to look at all the different sources of information that we're trying to bring. So these are updates of projects. These are speakers that have come from these different organizations doing different things here in Brunswick. And so I think we really are trying to pull in a lot of different perspectives and then keep that information on our website. Some of the other items. So you can see the Water Street access point that we coupled with a site visit so that we can understand the issues that are going on with that. The Wetland Compensation Fund, I think was something, that's an initiative Councilor Walker, and I think that's still ongoing, but conversations happen at the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission that it seems like later that year or the next year or the year after, something happens that started at the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission, or at least we brought it up to get people talking about it. And so I think it's a valuable service just to have these conversations perpetually running. And so for on the website, we have maybe 20 different documents, and I think that really the documents that a commission or a committee has on their website is a good indicator of the type of subject matter that you hear when you come. And so I just highlighted a few, and again, it's everywhere from regulatory references to the original harbor management plan, climate adaptation, guide to coastal laws, things that I think are good reference for the citizens of Brunswick. Initially, this slide was recent activities, but when I look at it, like 2018 is not exactly recent, but that initial discussion is still ongoing, and we're still addressing issues on Wharton Point just because of the complexity of the dynamic, the wave action there, the heavy use that it gets, and so this is something that it's not underway or being taken care of. It's just it's a long-term project. Some of these things are not easy fixes, and so we try to keep these items in the public eye, and we try to issue updates. The joint meeting with the Recreation Commission, which was a while ago, but that was really a way to start the conversation of updating Simpsons Point, the infrastructure there, and you can see that's still going on, I think, by the end of 2024. So this summer, I think that project is going to be close to complete. So again, that's something that it's been years in discussion, but we're getting very close to fixing that. Like I said, we've tried to start doing site visits because it was clear that some of these locations, not all the commissioners were familiar with this, with these areas. And so when we're trying to have a discussion about what's the best way to, improve the site or maximize the usage without being able to go and take a look, it's hard. And so to do a visit like this, we have to announce it. So if there's more than two of us, we have to actually make this part of the meeting. And so we end up having to schedule it and then going and talk. But we've done a pretty good job of getting out. Some of these places I hadn't been to before, Bond's Landing. And so now I have an appreciation of the challenges for that space. It's an unimproved location, but it's a tough decline to the water, and that's something that probably makes the erosion in that spot worse because of the traffic that's going up and down. And so being able to see it, I think we had a good idea of what it would take to improve it just enough to be more useful. And then Simpsons Point, as we try to keep abreast of what's happening out there. The Water Street portage, that was, some of these items are items that we're needing to make a recommendation, and some of them we are actually voting on, and so I didn't annotate every single one, but for instance, the Water Street portage, there was the town was acquiring a piece of property and wanting to know if it would fit into our plan and improve our access, and I think it really did. And then the homeowner was requesting that the town maybe carve out a little extra property for parking in that space, and so we were able to go down, take a look, and see the need. It was unfortunate that we weren't able to come up with a solution, but there were reasons like the Panett Park. You can't carve that up, which is a good thing, because if you start carving pieces out, pretty soon too much of it will be carved out. So there wasn't really much we could do, but it gave us a good appreciation of why, and I think we satisfied the homeowner's request, even though we couldn't approve it. I think probably every commission and committee is trying to promote education and training within their purview, and so I won't go through all of these, but again, this is a never-ending effort. We're always trying to provide information, and we can support and promote this type of information by inviting appropriate speakers to come and speak, and asking the town staff to provide updates on such programs. And so we try to do that. We've got we've got 2 speakers they're going to be coming this year. We're just trying to deal with scheduling, and we have a third that said they're interested. So hopefully we can bring these perspectives. And one will be legal issues. One will be water quality in the Androscoggin River, and another will be on pollution. And so we try to provide a diverse range of information that comes in. So for future focus and goals, we'll stay focused on Simpsons Point until that is done. I know things like the working waterfront inventory is underway. The Pier and Dock Ordinance, so that's an effort that was underway years ago, and maybe a couple years ago, and then got halted. And I think that some of the things that we do now, like the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission reviews the commercial dock applications, and that was an activity that would have provided a little more guidance for us. And so hopefully we can restart that action as well. And then maybe, one of the things in the harbor management plan was to look at, improving access by acquiring more property, which I think the town of Brunswick has done in the interim, but also you can acquire access through access points. You don't necessarily have to purchase the property. So, is there any way that we could leverage conservation easements, or any way that we could pursue access without actually having to buy the property? So that's always a good effort. We are bringing back the guest speakers, and then we have a list of, some of them are big, some of them are small, little things like updating the information placards, getting better road signage so that people who are looking for these water access points have an easier time finding it. And then the last thing is the 4th edition to the Brunswick Rivers and Coastal Waters, that access guide. And for a number of reasons, we decided to put that off. One, we have the scuttlebutt from the Maine Coast Fishermen's Associations coming, and we didn't want to launch the new document at both times. Plus, I think a number of things were changing with Simpsons Point and potential for pesticide, new ordinances on pesticide and chemical use, and so we didn't want the document to be outdated, right after it got printed. So holding off for another year seemed to make sense on that. And so those are some of the things that we're thinking about. I'm happy to answer any questions if any arise.
Thank you, Chair Melindy. That was very thorough. I have a question. Could you speak just a little bit more around the conversation on pesticides? I've had a few emails of late. I know there's some state laws that are potentially being passed too, so I'd love anything you have around that.
So I think that initially got started because a few towns around us, I think South Portland does, Harpswell does, have these ordinances. And so I think there was interest in Brunswick because, for instance, like neonicotinoids, which is a really popular pesticide, those are targeted for terrestrial arthropods, so your crickets and other insects like that, but lobsters and crabs are also arthropods, and so as that washes out, it's going to be effective against them as well. And so there's a good interest in making sure that stuff doesn't end up in the water. And really, it starts with what homeowners, because as we've seen recently, just about all of Brunswick is in some watershed or another. And so most of Brunswick is watershed, and that ends up going downstream. And so there was a lot of interest, and I believe that the Conservation Commission now has a subcommittee that is working on looking at some of the other surrounding towns' regulations around us and seeing how applicable they would be or not. The Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission is very interested, but we're not participating in that at this point. I'm sure when something comes up, hopefully it'll make the rounds and everybody will have a chance to take a look. But I think there's a good track record for these things working in other places, and Brunswick could benefit as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Other questions from council? Councillor Updegraff?
Thank you, Chair Melendi. Very nice job. And I will say you run really interesting meetings. I've enjoyed attending.
Thank you.
I'm interested in the site visits for this year. Do you have any planned, and are they open to the public? Just the, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yes, we don't have any locations planned yet, but it's been popular in these last couple of years, so I'm sure that we are going to continue with it. Plus, on a nice summer day, who wouldn't rather be out on a site visit rather than being inside? But we haven't chosen locations yet, but they are advertised just like our meeting would be, because if more than 2 of us show up, we have to advertise to the public. And some folks from the public have shown up at some of these. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but they're always certainly welcome. I think when we did one at Paul's Marina, we had a number of folks show up for that one. So
Great.
yeah, the more the merrier.
So, Clerk, if someone is signed up for the Notify Me for Rivers and Coastal, would they also get those notifications? Yes. Great. Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Councillor Walker?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair King, and thank you, Marco, for coming here tonight. I do have a question, but first, a statement. This committee looks at 66 miles of waterfront on our bays, Middle Bay, McCoy Bay, Harpswell Cove, et cetera, and another 20 maybe miles on the Androscoggin, which is a huge undertaking at a part of our community dealing not only with the impacts of climate change, sea level rise, flooding, storms, all that, but incredibly quickly rising property values that are impacting a lot of traditional uses and, of course, public access to these public resources at the same time, and competing uses in our bays that do have some limited access in terms of aquaculture, in terms of moorings, in terms of this, in terms of that. It's such a dynamic charge this committee has. I think it deserves as much support as we can give these folks, because it's not only an area that certainly defines our community, but an area with all these multiple competing uses. And you guys, for 10 years, have done a great job of teasing through some of these complex issues. And with that said, my question is, you referred early on in your presentation that the makeup of this committee was supposed to reflect a variety of different committee interests, whether it's planning, conservation, marine resources. How is that structure going? Do you have enough voices at the table? Is it time to revisit the makeup of the committee to more effectively tackle your charge? What input do you have for us in terms of potential enhancements?
Thank you for the question. I do think it works pretty well. We do have the Conservation Commission seat is currently vacant. We have Helene Harrower, who's on that commission, is effectively filling that position, but that wouldn't be a permanent situation because there are 2 votes, one that goes with, she's the commercial representative, and we have another vote. So that's not a permanent solution, but I recently spoke with a little while ago now, Sandy Stott, who is the chair of the Conservation Commission, and he's aware of it and is committed to figuring out how we can make sure we get another representative there. That being said, I think it does work well because, for instance, our commercial representative brings up things that I never would have thought of because I just don't have that perspective, that window of visibility. But coastal uses that she sees that are working or missing that I wouldn't have come across. And same thing with conservation, marine resources, and I just think the cross perspective works well. So I frequently learn things that I didn't know about from the other members. And so I think that serves its function. Is it perfect? No, but I think the idea of having a committee of committees and then bringing in citizen representatives as well, I think has worked well. My only recommendation right now would be making sure that the citizen representatives do represent both, coastal landowners and non-coastal landowners, because those needs and perspectives are very different. And I think we do have that right now, but it would be nice if that were codified. Just a thought.
No, that's a great thought. Is it time to refresh the harbor management plan now that that's 10 years out?
I think it is. When you look at, it's funny, I was reading through and you look at the surveys that they had done when they put that out. I mean, I think those could be surveys from today. And that doesn't mean we haven't tackled some of these issues. It just means, these are community-wide, cultural-wide things that are just constant efforts to make sure that we're accommodating different uses and the different demographics, the way they're using that coastal access. So I think we're doing a decent job, but it's a huge job. And so it'll take time. And so updating that management plan, it's been 11 years. Things have changed. I think that would be a good effort. And I think it's an effort that, if there's a chance to participate, the Rivers and Coastal Waters Commission would absolutely welcome the chance to start that process.
Other questions from council? All right. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you so
Chair
much.
Lundy. We appreciate you being here and your efforts.